Hi guys. If that title didn't make you just think, what the hell has this guy got to say, then nothing would. Okay, so let me just firstly say it's a bit misleading, that title. This isn't the problem with religion. It's going to go into something that has over the years got to me, and I think very recently made me a bit annoyed with social media and some of the junk I see on there. And normally you don't rise to that occasion, right? If somebody makes a joke out about something that you take seriously, it's best to ignore them, right? However, excuse me, I remember this great quote in the film Braveheart, which is my favorite film, and Longshanks, the king, he says, "The problem with Scotland is it's full of Scots." Great quote. Not that I've got anything against Scottish people at all. They're one of my favourite people. But I think it kind of can apply to religion. And I'm gonna go out on a whim here, and I know this is not going to be in agreement with a lot of people, and a lot of people are going to think, "Hell is he?" Or there's going to be a lot of angry people on either school of thought, but the problem with religion is religious people. I just find it absolutely senile. And I'll tell you where I'm going with this. And there's no script, there's no agenda, but this is where I'm going with it, right? Now I'm a physicist, right? I've studied science for about 9 years. My main focus has been quantum mechanics and particle physics, right? I'm not an expert at all. It's just something that interested me. I'm the chairman of the Sikh Astronomical Society and have been for a while. I'm members of the West of WOLAS, which is what does WOLAS stand for? West of London Astronomical Society. Member of the Institute of Physics, etc., etc. So I love science. I love everything scientific. It's a subject. Half these books behind me, if I showed you, I mean, my favorite book is, I say favorite, not best to read, Roger Penrose, Road to Reality. Have a read, it's amazing. And yes, I am wearing tracksuit bottoms with a shirt because that's my COVID attire. Anyway, come back to the point. I love science. I absolutely love everything about science. I've practiced it, I've studied it, I work in the field, I read it, I've watched almost all the sci-fi films out there, everything about physics especially. I see this argument a lot on social media. It's disgraceful, this argument that I don't believe in religion, I believe in science. Let me just put this very, very clearly to anybody who thinks that argument warrants and holds any credibility whatsoever. There is no scientific paper, there's no peer-reviewed journal, there's no PhD, there's no scientist, there's no practice, there's no institution, there's not even a formula in science, in any scientific doctrine, study, discipline that disproves God. Okay? If there is, tell me. Because from what I've seen, it doesn't exist. Okay? There's no scientific theory, paper, etc. that disproves religion and says religion is wrong. It does not exist. Science does not disprove God. Science isn't the opposition of God. It's not the opposition of religion. There is no opposition of science. Science is something that's is done, and a conclusion or conjecture is achieved by experiment which is observable. Okay, so if I do an experiment here and you do an experiment where you are, and we get the same result, we can conclude, right? It's the science of probability. It's not an absolute law. General relativity is a theory, okay? There are so many theories in science, very few laws, and even laws are subject to conjecture. E equals mc squared. Now the c in E equals mc squared is the speed of a massless particle. Some people say, no, it's not, it's the speed of light. Light is a massless particle, or is it? Does a photon not have any mass whatsoever? Do the particles in it not have any mass whatsoever? My point being is forever evolving. The scientific theory and law is forever evolving. That's the beauty of it. Science is beautiful in its own right. It doesn't need an enemy. It doesn't need a comparison. It doesn't need all these people who have never studied science or understood it, more to the point, to then use that as a weapon against people who practice something completely unrelated to science. Okay? That's my first point. My second point is religious people. You do not have a monopoly on the moral compass and status of the soul. You don't suddenly conform to your belief and therefore everyone else is wrong. I don't say, oh, I'm not going to mention any religions here, by the way, okay? I'm not going to talk about particular faiths. There are 4,280 religions in this world. 4,280 religions. Obviously, there are the larger Abrahamic religions, and there are smaller religions, and etc., etc., etc. And then there are religions like Scientology, whether you can class that as a religion or not. By definition, it is a religion. By definition, atheism is a religion, right? The issue there is that if you was to say, I don't believe in religion, or all religions are wrong, you would have had to concluded by using a scientific method, right? I'll give you an example. That book that I just picked up, Roger Penrose's Road to Reality, I read that 5 times, not because I love it and I understood it, but 4 of them times I didn't understand it. So I read it and read it. Same with Charles Dickens' Bleak House. When I was studying law a long time ago, I read Bleak House 3 or 4 times, and it still baffles me how beautiful and amazing and in-depth and how many layers there are to certain books, right? People cannot say, for example, I'm going to make a religion up here, okay? I'm going to call this religion YouTube, okay? Let's say my religion is YouTube. You can't say to me YouTube is wrong if you've never read the Bible of YouTube. Okay. You cannot tell me Roger Penrose's book, Road to Reality, is wrong, it's discredited, it's full of junk, if you've never read it. Try it. If you've never read that book, you tell me in the comments why it's wrong. What's wrong with it? You cannot tell me about a film and the plot of the film and the flaws in the film if you've not watched the film. You therefore cannot say religion is bull, religion is crap, religion is a way to divide and conquer people's minds if you've not studied all the religions. It's by the same logical theory. You cannot do it. If you choose to do that, you're talking a nonsense. I have a lot of respect for atheists. I have a lot of respect for religious people. I have a lot of respect for agnostics and everything in between. What I don't have respect for is where people feel that they know everything without understanding anything. When it comes to the actual story of religion, and I'm not going to, again, pick on any religion, but I am going to give you one example from one religion, okay? Slight contradiction there. You tell me the best way to live in your mind, in your soul of souls, if I can use the word soul, in your heart of hearts, right? You have this man, this being, physical being, telling people they shouldn't cheat people out of money. telling people to be honest, telling people to love not only those who love you, but those who do not love you. Love your enemy. Telling people not to commit adultery. Saying to people, hey, don't kill each other. Telling people not to murder each other. Telling people not to steal. Telling people to live what we will say, in my opinion, is a morally correct life. You got this person walking around, and his sole purpose is to teach people how to love each other. Right? Whether that's true or not, whether that's factual or not, you don't know whether that's factual or not because you weren't there. We can only go by what is written, right? Then this person is prosecuted. He goes through. He's tortured in front of his mother, in front of his family, his loved ones. But he stays true to his word, and he talks then about his sacrifice and the kingdom, which we could all aspire to do if we live this morally right life. If that person was on social media today, if that person was a celebrity, if a celebrity does something, a tiny, millimeter of what this person did, we sing their praises. If a celebrity gives a fifth of their income to a charity, we go, wow, that's brilliant. But when a man walks in sandals day to day, telling the whole world and everyone that can hear his voice, live a better life, love each other, live morally right, don't do this, don't do that, all of a sudden, everyone that listens to him is an idiot. Listen to yourself. Listen to what I'm saying. I'm not of that faith. I've not mentioned the faith, but you know who I'm talking about, right? Do I think that person, just because people follow that person and that faith correctly or incorrectly, that person was living a bad life? Isn't that the life of an ideal human? Isn't that the life of how you would want to live? Or how would you want your father to live, your mother to live, your children to live? Would you not want them to live morally right? And if they live in the highest level of morality, are they not living almost identical to this person a lot of people choose to call gibberish? You look at all these other faiths, and my title is, the problem with religion is. The problem with religion is, for me, is the people. Is the misinterpretation. Every single physicist that I know defines time differently. If I say to a physicist, tell me what time is, they all say it's different. They all tell me differently. Okay. Nobody has this definition. You can get it in the dictionary, even that's neither here or there. For me, time is motion and displacement. For somebody else, it may be something else. Somebody else is something else. I just find it absolutely absurd that even then people can define something so in depth, so ancient, so beautiful about how we can be better as beings and say it's a load of rubbish just because they found a few flaws they don't agree with. If people want to get together on a Sunday morning, right? If people want to get together on a Sunday morning and they want to sit together and they want to think about their lives for an hour and about what they're doing wrong and what they want to do better, if they want to reflect inwardly, in which universe is that a bad thing? But no, you don't get that. You instead get these people that practice this and they go home and they're loving people. But the problem arises when these people then think they have this monopoly. They think then just because they have found something amazing and beautiful that they know it all, they suddenly have all the knowledge of the universe and suddenly they are God themselves. And this is where the problem comes in. The one thing my religion teaches me, and I'm not going to say what that is, okay? This is a clue, right? Is one thing that must be eliminated from every being is ego. If you can't eliminate the very basic things that your faith is telling you to eliminate, ego, you can call them sins, your pride, your sense of success, in these days, you can even say narcissism. You can say all sorts of inward, outwardly facing attributes that make you feel better than another person, make you feel more knowledgeable than another person. Your greed, your selfishness. If you can't eliminate these basic things, you're not religious. You're an egoistic maniac. You're a crank. You're not a representative of, or an indication, or a light or a beacon of what you think you practice. Instead, you're the opposite. I've had people say to me from another religion, says, your religion is wrong. I said, why is that? He said, oh, in our religion, we shave our mustache. We shave our pubic hairs, and we shave our armpits because of hygiene. I remember turning around to this person and saying, God must have made a few mistakes then. Your perfect God must have made a few errors if you are changing his creation. His mouth dropped. Then he said to me, whatever, he got a bit angry and he said, look, as far as I'm concerned, everybody is born. Then he mentioned his religion. I said, really? Okay. So what were we before your religion? I put my arm around that guy and I said, look, I'm not trying to have a go at you, but you've got to get out of this I know it all and you know nothing rubbish. Instead, practice what it says in your faith. And I guarantee you this, if you start practicing what it says in your faith, rather than feeling that you all of a sudden are the beacon of everything you've read, just because you've been to your religious, I'm not going to use just word, your religious temple, right, whatever that is, for a few Sundays, or you've been told this is right by somebody that looks wise. Practice it and you will realize that your religion is nothing but a constitution written by man to help you get to a destination, right? That destination, you can call it what you want. I call it God, right? You call it make-believe fairy tale. Call it whatever you like. Call it the man in the sky if you're really that way inclined. If you reach that destination, you realize that the constitution, the road, the rules on the road to get to the middle of that roundabout are different for every single person at every single time in the history of humanity. In other words, every single religion. Every religion says you should do this, you shouldn't do this, you should do this, you should do this. Because they're the rules made for that specific time, for them specific people, in that specific language, in that specific manner, right? It doesn't mean that the religion that was 400 years before is wrong just because your religion came up 400 years after. You don't supersede that faith. Because the destination is the same. The message is different. Because we are different. I'm not saying we've mentally or physically evolved. Now, an example of that is science. So what we knew about science, in the 9th and 10th century, very different to the 15th century. You call it the time of enlightenment. When Newton and Galileo and all these great scientists came with these fantastic theories, science evolved. It doesn't mean that everything before that was incorrect. Nor does it mean that they've superseded that. They've added to the beautiful knowledge, right? Einstein's relativity 1905 and his paper in 1921. He took science to another level. Then you got Dirac. You got all these great, fantastic scientists, which is still happening today. Once they write a theory, it doesn't mean every theory prior to it was wrong. It's a different message for a different time, for a different reason, for a different purpose, right? They're building on previous messages. That building in itself doesn't mean that you are adding more value as well. The value that was sufficient for people to reach that destination 600 years ago is different to the value now, because we are different. So when I say the problem with religion is religious people, I think it's this act of entitlement that, you know, a lot of people feel because they are practicing their faith, that every other faith is wrong. And I'm going to say this to you bluntly, right? If you feel your religion is right and other religions are wrong, or if you feel there is no God and you are right and everyone else is wrong, or if you feel there is a God and every atheist is wrong, then all of you people that feel these ways, you're all wrong. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm infinitely wrong. And the reason is this. If I showed you a piece of paper like this, right? And I said to you, I've just picked this up. Let me see if I've got a pen around here. I don't, so I'll use my finger. I show you this piece of paper and I say, this is all the knowledge in the universe. Okay? This is all the knowledge in the universe is within this paper. What have you studied? You said, oh, let's say I studied mechanical engineering. Okay. This little circle here is mechanical engineering, right? There's a little tiny circle here is mechanical engineering. So you've got that knowledge in mechanical engineering. Fantastic. Do you know anything about this doctrine here? Let's say this is, I don't know, horology. Do you know anything about horology? No, you don't. Do you know anything about medicine? No, you don't. Let's say, okay, how about tree surgery? Do you know anything about tree surgery? No, you don't. So you know about mechanical engineering, this little circle here. So are you therefore telling me that there is quite a lot of information that you don't know? Yeah, there is, isn't there? There's a lot I don't know. What I don't know is much greater and always will be greater than what I do know. So if that's the case, how can I conclude that I know there is no God? How can I therefore conclude and say I know there is a God? Both sides fail because ignorance is infinite. And this is where the problem is. Rather than finding your answers in books, lose yourself in the universe and you will be a part of the universe. That might sound really cheesy, but if you just accept the here and now, accept the present time, accept nature, accept there is things that lean this way, there is things that lean that way, accept that everything that goes up comes down, accept these very basic principles of nature, not principles of religion, not principles of science, principles of nature, then you will become one with the infinite, right? Once you are one with the infinite, you are one with God. And that's pretty much where I'm going to leave it. I know a lot of people will disagree with this, they will hate this, and I really won't be surprised if this gets a lot of thumb downs. But I don't really care about that because it's not anger, it's just these fences that people sit on, like, oh, I believe in science, I don't believe in religion. There's no such thing. I believe in religion, I don't believe in science. There's no such thing. Stop believing in things. Stop questioning things. Just be and enjoy and almost, you know, look into the light, look into the sun, look into the light and enjoy that. Just be a part of it. Live your life like that. And you will find that these religions, these practices are not evil. There was this Russian woman, I was listening to this podcast yesterday by Jordan Peterson, and Randall Wallace, I think his name is Randall Wallace, the chap who directed Braveheart. Again, Braveheart comes in. And they were talking, and what Mr. Wallace, he was in Russia, in Moscow, and he said to a lady, he said, she was doing a tour of Moscow, like tour guide, and she said, right, is there anything else anybody will want to discuss or see? And he said, I would like to see your churches. And she looked at him very confused, and she said to him, I'm surprised that a director or a producer of films would want to see churches. And he said, why? And she said, I'll show you my church. And he said, you have a church? She said, yeah. And he said, well, I'm equally surprised that, you would say you've got a church because, you're about my age. He said that to her, apparently. And I think he's in his 60s. He said, by the time you were growing up, there was a lot of anti-religious sentiments, post-war in Russia at that time, in Moscow. They were knocking the churches down. I'm surprised that you got a church. And she said this was her response. She said, my father was an atheist. My mother was an atheist. I was an atheist. And I saw what happened in Russia so many times. I saw what happened in Russia for so many years. And it was becoming very industrial, very heavy-handed, massive margins between rich and poor. And I remember always walking past these old buildings. There were only a few of them left. And these old buildings, beautiful buildings, with stained glass window, and in the stained glass window I could see the candlelight. And she said, I walked into there just because it was beautiful. That's quite a profound statement. Just because it was beautiful. And when I walked in there, I saw people sat together, smiling, comforting each other, talking about the good things, inspiring each other, motivating each other. We sang hymns. They sang hymns, and the hymns were just beautiful and melodic. And I walked out there with a warmth in my heart. So I went back, and then I went back and back and back, and she went back, and now she's a Christian, right? I mentioned a religion there, but that's a truthful story, so I can do that. That's not an opinion. And I think that in itself, that statement in itself is beautiful. People have stopped looking at beauty as a thing of strength, as sacrifice and inner vision and, almost dedication to a life of morale, which we evolve in, religious or not, as a beautiful thing. I think we are craving beauty in our lives. If you go to Europe, 90% of the tourist spots in Europe are because of beauty. They're because of the arts, the gardens, the cathedrals. We have a craving, we have a desire to see beauty. And beauty can be found in a gathering of people just getting together to want to make their lives better, and recognizing that they have sinned, and recognizing that they have done things they shouldn't have done, and they want to make their lives better. What's the harm in that? I don't know. I'm going to end this video because I'm probably gone on a bit too much, but I hope you guys are not offended by what I've said. If you are, then I'm not going to apologize, but I will appreciate and understand why that might be the case. Let me know what you think. I can go on for hours, but I feel like I digress, and it's probably a bit of a contradiction because there's a bit of ego there, and I don't want to come across as arrogant and egoistic. But if you don't believe in religion, there's no reason you can't believe in the messages of it. Love each other, don't steal from each other, love even those who are your enemy, don't commit adultery, don't cheat on your partner, live a truthful life. And one thing that is in my faith is the highest thing in the universe is truth, yet only one thing is higher, that is to be truthful, to be truth. And that's quite a profound statement. And I like to end on this note. I once, out of aggression said to somebody who was having a go at Christianity, I said, I'm sorry, but you talk about Christianity, but whenever there's a disaster in the world, I see Islam aid there, I see Christian aid there, I see Judaism aid there, as in charities helping out, I see Khalsa aid there. I don't see atheist aid there. I don't see the collection of the atheist institution, because it doesn't exist. And those who do go there to aid other people, they're not doing it because of the religion. They're not doing it because, Christ told them to. They're doing it because they care. Atheists care just as much as religious people, and vice versa. We've got to stop categorizing people in that sense. And one thing that makes me, or helps me be better in my life, is in my faith, if you Google this, see who feeds the most homeless people in the world. And I'll tell you, I'm not saying my faith is better than yours. I'm saying this for a reason. You Google homeless people fed by religion. It's Sikhs. Sikhs feed more needy people than any other group of people in the world. And the reason I'm telling you this is not because I think they're great and everyone else is not. This is the sole reason. The reason Sikhs feed people all around the world is because of religion. Okay? The reason I have my moral duty and the way I am as a person is because of my religion. The reason I can go to the Sri Mandir Sahib, also known as the Golden Temple, where 100,000 people are fed every day, regardless of their skin color, their religion, their faith, whether they're agnostics or whatever, whether they're gay or bisexual, regardless of discrimination, is because of religion. Religion has its own beauty in it, and people need to stop tarnishing it with this sense of entitlement to monopoly. That's it. That's half an hour of me talking. I hope some of it made sense.